Greetings to everyone attending this program. I'm Manjulika Vaz from the Division of Health and Humanities, and I'm happy to be your host for today's public lecture in memory of our dear Professor Prakash Shetty. Dr. Shetty envisaged this public lecture along with the health and humanities to be on a topic that can speak to people from all walks of life. It could be an area of science which affects public life, or the intersection of science with the arts. Today, we have the latter. Professor Prakash Shetty focused his medical career on the human body, from its physiology to aspects of nutrition. He also studied the human body as depicted through temple sculptures. Today, we bring together stories conveyed by the body and human emotion in our lecture demonstration titled Embodying Art, Looking Within and Beyond the Body, brought to us by a unique dancer, Aranyani Bhargav. After her talk and performance, we'll have time for audience interaction. So do keep your thoughts, your reflections, and questions ready. We may not be able to take questions from our online audience, but we'll try. And we'll also try and get back to you later. Also to inform you, during the performance, we will be dimming the lights. As you know, today is the 5th Professor Prakash Shetty Memorial Lecture. The previous public lectures are available on our website, St. John's Research Institute website, under the tab Resources in the drop-down Lectures. The first lecture was delivered in September. Delivered by Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, Chief Secretary, WHO on the pandemic. In 2021, it was delivered by Dr. Ravi, a virologist, and Dr. Anant Ban, a bioethicist on the COVID vaccines. And last year, in 2022, we had Dr. Sharat Chandra Lele speaking to us on climate change and our responses. Before I end, I have a message to read out from Dr. Nandini Shetty, wife of Prakash Shetty. She apologizes as she is in Ghana at the moment as a clinical advisor to a UK aid program that looks at global health security, in particular the control of antimicrobial resistance. She says, I quote, "I know that Prakash would have 100% supported my decision to follow my professional commitment. Hence, she's not with us online today. Thank you, Nandini, for your support and working with us closely on bringing Professor Prakash Shetty's dream to fruition." I now call upon Reverend Dr. Charles Davis, our Associate Director of the College and Research Institute, to welcome our guest.
Our Director of the St. John's National Academy of Health Sciences, Dr. Tony Raj, Dean, St. John's Research Institute, Dr. Nandini Shetty, Dr. Manjulika Vaz, Ms. Aranyani Bhargav, Founder Director, Beauty Dance Company, members of the faculty, heads of the departments and divisions, students and everyone present online and in this hall. We are gathered here to remember and celebrate the memory of Professor Prakash Shetty, an outstanding teacher and researcher of medical sciences, history of medicine, Indian culture and arts. In particular, we are here to remember him for his contribution to the division of humanities and the history of medicine. Humanities precede medicine. Pope Leo XIII spoke in the times of India's industrial revolution about the primacy of humans over sciences, societies, cultures, and religions. His famous maxim was, "Man precedes the state." In other words, humans first, societies and the state secondary. A renowned moral theologian, Professor Dr. Eberhard Schockenhoff, said it beautifully in the context of the debates on body-soul dichotomy that humans can only exist in and through a body. Without the bodiness of humans in physicality and temporality, human souls can only wander here and there which may not have much relevance to the current state of physical and earthly life. It would not be possible for us to talk about rationality and morality without referring to the bodily existence. The body is the concrete medium of expression in which the human persons present themselves, including the self-performance of the spirit, mind, and soul. Today, we are extremely honored to have Miss Aranyani Bhargav, a graduate of Oxford University, to speak and perform about the medium of expression of the body, mind, and emotion. Yes, body speaks more than the words, and the body speaks loudly. We are eagerly looking forward to your expression on embodying art, looking within and beyond the body. We are honored to have your program here. Thank you for coming. We welcome you, Ms. Aranyani Bhargav, and hearty welcome to everyone present online and in this hall. Welcome.
Thank you, Father, for those kind words. I request our director, Reverend Father Jesudas, to please say a few words.
Father Charles Davies, our Associate Director, College and Research Institute, Dr. Tony Raj, our Dean of Research Institute, and Dr. Manjulika Vas, and a special invitee, Mrs. Aranyani Bhargav, and my dear students, senior faculty members, and family members of Professor Prakash Shetty. We are here to witness a unique performance in remembrance of the contribution of our beloved former Professor Prakash Shetty. St. John's was privileged to have Dr. Shetty served as a faculty for over 2 decades, from 1972 to 1993. He was the head of the Department of Physiology and was one of the pioneering researchers of St. John's who paved the way for medical research in the academy. He was also very passionate about the history of medicine and was the former head of the Department of History of Medicine. I heard that he was also very interested in understanding the intersection of arts and humanities with the health, and was one of the patrons of the Division of Health and Humanity at St. John's. Today, we have the privilege of witnessing a truly remarkable art form, one that transcends the boundaries of human language and communicates directly to the depths of our souls. Through the power of dance, our speaker performer today, Mrs. Aranyani Bhargav, is going to guide us on the profound journey of self-reflection and exploration centered around the theme, Embodying Art, Looking Within and Beyond the Body. I would like to thank Mrs. Aranyani Bhargav for accepting our invitation to this year's Professor Prakash Shetty public lectures. We look forward to seeing your performance in this unique lecture demonstration this year. I would like to also thank Dr. Nandini Shetty, who is watching us from distance, and his family for their continued support to St. John's and for facilitating this lecture in memory of our beloved Professor Shetty. Let us open our hearts and minds to the beauty that is about to unfold before us. Please join me in appreciating and welcoming our extraordinary performer who will transport us into the world of art, where the body becomes a canvas, movement becomes poetry, and dance becomes the language of soul. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Father, for that warm and beautiful address. Father, you started remembering Professor Prakash Shetty. To continue paying a tribute to him, I call upon our Dean of the Research Institute, Dr. Tony Raj, who himself is a physiologist and was a student of Dr. Shetty, to pay him a tribute.
Our Director, Reverend Father J. Sudas Rajamanakam, our Associate Director, Reverend Dr. Charles Davis, other executives of the Academy, Ms. Aranya, a family of Dr. Shetty, Dr. Manjulika Vaz, faculty, staff, and students. Well, it's a pleasure and privilege to introduce Professor Prakash Shetty, who is an exceptional leader, researcher, and a polymath. Just to share with you, Dr. Prakash Shetty was born on 28 September 1943 and had his early education in Bangalore. And later, he went on to do his undergraduation from CMC Vellore and finished that in 1968, and followed that with an MD from CMC itself in 1972. And in the very same year, he took up a post as Assistant Professor in the Department of Physiology here at St. John's. While he started his career here, he was also very inquisitive and was keen on doing research. So in 1977, he went on to Cambridge, the University of Cambridge, and registered for a PhD at the Dunn Nutrition Center under the mentorship of Professor W.P.T. James. After Cambridge in 1980, Professor Prakash Shetty returned to St. John's and was rapidly promoted to associate professor and then full professor. And very soon he set up what's called the ICMR Nutrition Research Center way back in the early 80s. He's had a long and distinguished career as professor and head of Department of Physiology here at St. John's between 1972 and 1993. And in addition, he was also the director and program coordinator, that's from 1985 to 1993, at the Nutrition Research Center, which was funded by the Indian Council of Medical Research, which he established. It was a first of its kind in a private medical institute having a research center that was focused on nutrition. Professor Prakash Shetty was an exceptional and gifted teacher. I recall when I joined here as an undergraduate in 1987, his lectures were so engaging and interesting that he made it easy to understand difficult physiological concepts. It surely reflected his passion for physiology and his teaching. He transformed the Department of Physiology from a conventional department to a department that not only taught physiology, but was also engaged with research in human nutrition and metabolic physiology. With his passion, he was able to attract several of our alumni and other students to take up research in metabolic physiology and nutrition, many of whom have gone on to become leaders in their own research domains. In the words of some of his mentees, he also had a gift of strong leadership, yet in his strength, he would not hesitate to show his weaknesses, and in turn that made them reflect on their own weaknesses. As a mentor, he was not just admired by his mentees, they just loved him. His research at St. John's was shaped by the interest and expertise that he had gained at the Dunn Nutrition Center at Cambridge. He worked extensively on energy metabolism, particularly energy expenditure, the impact of the autonomic nervous system and responses to undernutrition. And he also developed interests in body composition. In the early years at St. John's, he additionally worked on dietary fiber and transit time, and he was also responsible for a considerable achievement of developing the first the whole body indirect calorimeter in Asia, which is still there in the Department of Physiology. This was funded by the Wellcome Trust in the UK. After almost 22 years of excellent and dedicated service to St. John's, he moved to the United Kingdom in 1993 to take up the chair in human nutrition at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. He was perhaps the first Asian to be invited to that position. In 2001, after completing 8 successful years as a professor of nutrition at LSHTM, he then moved on to the Food and Agricultural Organization, the United Nations organization, as Service Chief of Nutrition Planning, Assessment and Evaluation Service under the Food and Nutrition Division. And he served there for 4 years, and later was a professor of public health nutrition at the University of Southampton School of Medicine from 2005 to 2015. He was also the editor-chief of the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition from 2006 to 2011. He continued to be an emeritus professor at Physiology and Nutrition here at St. John's and was a visiting professor at the Division of Health and Humanities right till the end. Even after Professor Prakash Shetty left St. John's, he maintained strong and deep connections with his mentees and with St. John's. And besides facilitating research within the Department of Physiology and the Division of Nutrition, he is also responsible for initiating the Health Informatics Group way back into the year 2000, which has now grown to become the Division of Medical Informatics. And I recall his passion and enthusiasm with which he initiated the collaboration with the London School of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene and a Dutch informatics group in the year 2001. Professor Prakash Shetty was an outstanding scientist, an electrifying, engaging and passionate teacher, and much more, a loved individual amongst all his peers, students and mentees. He was fascinated by the history of medicine as seen through the lens of Indian art He was passionate about engaging the public with the development in the sciences, a word he used in the broadest sense. In summary, he was an outstanding teacher, a researcher, and a polymath spanning basic medical sciences, the history of medicine, philosophy, literature, politics, Indian culture, and the arts. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Aranyani Shetty and her children for their continued support. Let us celebrate his life today as part of his lecture which he is instituting. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tony, for taking us down memory lane. Students of the batch of 2023, the new MBBS batch, you've seen what physiology can take you through. And it's a remarkable department, and you all are privileged to be part of St. John's and to be going through this department of physiology. I now call upon Dr. Anjali Olapalli.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is truly a pleasure to introduce our speaker performer for today, Aranyani Bhargav. Aranyani is a freelance performer, teacher, scholar, and artistic director of Vyuti Dance Company. She has trained in Bharatnatyam for 16 years under Padma Shri Leela Sampson, starting at the age of 5. She has also secured diplomas in contemporary dance at the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts in the UK and the Auditorium Centre for Movement Arts in Bangalore. In addition to performing, Aranyani has academically engaged with dance in several ways. She wrote her master's dissertation in Oxford University on the impact of colonialism, nationalism, and the emergence of the middle class on Bharatnatyam in contemporary India. Aranyani has also co-founded a platform called Recognizing Dance in 2020 that bridges the gap between scholarship and practice by engaging with dance in an academic way. Aranyani founded the Vyuti Dance Company in 2014 as a dance group which explores Bharatnatyam vocabulary in a group format. She is the recipient of the Natya Kala Mani Award in 2014 for her noteworthy contributions to Bharatnatyam. She has showcased her dance and given lecture demonstrations both across India and in many countries around the world. And the beauty of conceptualizing and developing the endless mind, alongside raising her toddler son, all in the middle of the pandemic. Another time I was amazed was watching her perform with Vyuti well into her 7th month of pregnancy. There was such a level of comfort and grace that I honestly couldn't take my eyes off her. So please join me in
much for that very, very kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you who have introduced me over and over again and showered me with compliments and made me feel embarrassed. But I'd like to thank all of you. And I'd like to thank the St. John's Research Institute and Dr. Manjulika Vaz personally for inviting me to deliver this talk and to share with you a choreography of mine. And of course, Professor Prakash Shetty, his family, I would like to acknowledge and thank them. I'm very humbled to be here. I've heard so much about what Professor Prakash Shetty has done during his lifetime, and I'm very honored to be a part of the celebration of his memory. And, this occasion on which we are trying to remember what a wonderful researcher, doctor, and person he was. Today I'll be talking about embodying art, looking within and beyond the body. And I will attempt to explain how, in my view, dance requires a mind-body connect that can provide dancers with tools to connect deeply with our emotions, and how that can result in compassion and empathy being embodied into our daily practice. I talk about how dance and medicine are different, for sure, and yet similar in crucial ways, and how we can perhaps benefit from each other's practices by viewing them as complementary to each other as opposed to in isolation, in order to attain what I will, for the purpose of this lecture, I'll be calling it comprehensive well-being of people. Before the talk, I'll be performing a piece called Samshaya. This piece is very special to me. It's a very rare choreography because Bharatanatyam, as those of you who are familiar with Bharatanatyam, you'll know that Bharatanatyam is usually performed to Carnatic music. It also has a very heavy percussive element to it with the mridangam. There's a lyrical element to it with the Carnatic vocal music. And it's quite fast-paced as well. This piece is different because, first of all, it is the choreography has been set to music by the legendary Hindustani classical vocalist Kishori Amonkar, and it's not lyric heavy at all. Actually, most of the piece is alap, so it left a lot of room for interpretation and improvisation, and it was created for an occasion in 2017 where I ended up performing for the then Vice President of India, Dr. Hamid Ansari, and I performed it to a very moved audience, and it's a very moving piece because it's also a very emotion-heavy piece, and that's why I chose to show this piece today. So I'll just briefly explain what the narrative of the piece is, with some gestures as far as I can, just so that you can connect with it better for those of you who are not familiar. So the performance starts with the protagonist, you can decide if she's a woman or a man, but the protagonist who has been told that, for the sake of convenience, let's say she, because I'm also she, but she has just been told that her lover has betrayed her, and that he's coming to her house. And so the whole piece, it transpires in that time period between her realizing that she's been betrayed and his arrival. And it's basically about the internal conflict that she goes through, having deeply loved this person, and she probably still does love this person despite the betrayal, on whether or not she should forgive and forget, or whether she should confront him and turn him away. So her mind is divided, and her heart and her mind are completely split. So there's the side of her, and I've actually choreographed it in a way that the stage is split into two sides of the stage. So there's one side of her mind that remembers the good times, it remembers the happy times when they were together, when he wouldn't look at anyone except her, and he would say that she was the most beautiful person. They were completely, deeply in love, lost in each other's worlds. She can only remember those moments when, they used to lie on the bed together and they would make love. But then she's also confronted with this other side of her mind that is doubly hurt by the fact that this same person who she has shared so much with was able to do this to her. and she grapples, she's constantly torn, and she talks about how at the time when they were together, those flowers that used to bloom, now they're wilted. The beautiful bees and butterflies that earlier used to give her joy, now she doesn't want to have anything to do with them. The moon, that is quite a symbol of romance, that earlier used to give her so much joy and pleasure, now she just doesn't even want to look at the moon. And as she's grappling with this, she's also realizing that the time is approaching for his arrival, and she says, but what will I even say to him? Should I forgive him, and should I forget everything that has happened? Or when he comes, should I say, why have you come here? Get out. So she doesn't know what she's going to do. She's very, very torn. And then she realizes that at least she must have a conversation with him. But she's constantly getting pulled by this helpless pull of love, but also hesitating because of the conflict and the betrayal. So this piece is not about whether she does forgive him or not. It's more about the conflict, and I will leave it up to you whether she does or doesn't forgive him. This piece is called Samshaya. Thank you so much for watching this piece. We can talk more about this piece once we get to the question-answer session. The piece that you just saw was just one example of how music and dance can invoke emotions and can help build tools to be compassionate and empathetic in our practice. This piece was created entirely by listening to the music, and the narrative that was created here was not prescribed. It's not there in the lyrics. It's not something that is the well-known narrative. This was just my interpretation from listening to the notes, the mood of the raga, the way that she has sung it. I sensed in the music, in her voice, that there was pain, but there was also love, and there was despair, and there was conflict and torment. And all of these things that I felt when I listened to the music is what led to the building of the narrative. And when I kind of thought about pain and love and being tormented, then the idea of somebody betrayed and by someone that they love, that conflict kind of came about, and that's how this piece came. And this piece is not a result of me having been in this situation, but dance helped me to feel that compassion and empathy towards someone who may have been in a situation like this. And so dance, what I'm trying to say is that dance can make you feel things that you may not, or make you feel and express things that you may not have necessarily felt yourself in your daily life, but you're able to put yourself, it gives you the ability, art I think gives you the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes and try and really feel what it is that they must have felt at that time. So I think the central question in my talk today is, how does art and dance in particular enable us to look at the body beyond muscle, bone and tissue? How, in addition to the crucial practice of medicine, can dance become a source of healing? And can dance and health be integrated? So when I thought about this, I was thinking that when a doctor and a dancer come face to face with one another, the glaring similarity in their professions doesn't immediately come, it doesn't occur to either of them. Dancers and doctors see themselves as quite autonomous from each other. When a dancer goes to a doctor, he or she does not think of the doctor as someone who is closely related to dance, nor does a doctor come to watch a dance performance relating to it as a doctor. They see themselves as totally different from one another, functioning in completely different realms of daily existence and professional practice. Yes, of course, they are different, but not entirely separated from each other. And this is because both doctors and dancers crucially and centrally concern themselves with the human body. In fact, Indologist and Sanskritist Patrick Olivell's article, The Medical Profession in Ancient India, Its Social, Religious and Legal Status, reveals that as far back as Kautilya's Arthashastra, dancers and doctors were categorized into the same social class, meaning that their professions were perceived to not be very dissimilar. I think this is possibly because the professions deal with the human body, albeit differently. In order to examine this close relatedness further, let us look at the body. What is the body? The answer to that question depends entirely on how you perceive the body. The body is definitely bone, muscle, nerve, and tissue. It is skin and hair and nails. It is organs, vital organs, and blood. But it is more than that. The body is a living organism. An organism that not only breathes through the lungs and pumps blood through the heart, but also encases within it a brain, and therefore the mind, arguably. The brain or the mind enables us to execute movements involving complex motor skills, to learn languages and to speak so that we can communicate. The brain is capable of thought, logic, and reason, and a plethora of emotions, which it expresses not just through speech, but also through the body. The body can also be a site of sickness or health. sickness or health can be viewed as entirely physiological, or it can be viewed from the perspective of this comprehensive well-being of a person. We would all agree that it is crucial for a sick body to be healed and nursed back to health. But what does that entail? Doctors and medical research are both crucial to this healing, as you all know. Physicians and nurses attend to their patients. Doctors prescribe medication for ailments and operate on the body when necessary. Medical research, too, continuously strives to find cures for diseases, make more medical advancements like neurosurgical methods, new vaccines, and so on. All of you know more about this than I ever could. And so you all know that they are, of course, essential, and more obviously so, to the physical health of the body. A person's comprehensive well-being, however, depends on more than tracking and fixing a set of illnesses. It is restoring and then maintaining and sustaining that well-being to a person who feels unwell generally and overall. And this general unwellness, I believe, involves physical as well as mental and emotional components. So where does dance fit into all of this? I believe that dance, due to its dual requirement for bodily health and fitness, along with this deep connection to our emotions through expression, can be integral to maintaining and sustaining comprehensive well-being to the human body, in addition to medicine. I was just thinking that, the narrative of the body of a non-dancer can sometimes be written as relatively indisciplined and unconnected to emotions as compared to that of a dancer. And if dance and health can be integrated, then dance may well help for us to be able to teach us how to rewrite this history of the body. And therefore I argue that dance, and indeed other artistic practices like music and theatre, should be integrated with health, just as dancers and dance should be seen in relation to other practices, including medicine. I believe that medical practitioners and medicine can be seen in relation to other practices too, including art and dance. Yoga has, in some ways, managed to bridge this divide between art and wellness. It is both an art form and a healing practice. I really, really do believe that dance and medicine can relate in this way as well. There have been courageous and path-breaking efforts in the fields of dance therapy, but I do believe that dance in itself, as it is, can be integrated into health to achieve well-being in human beings. So what do dancers do? Dancers are principally concerned with the body, just as doctors are. Their own bodies, certainly, but also others' bodies. As dancers, we rigorously exercise, we stretch, we warm up, we do cardio and strength training to build stamina, to improve flexibility, to expand our bodily capabilities in terms of movement. We study also about anatomy and breath, the alignment of the body and its posture, so that we can prevent injury. And we are also concerned with other people's bodies, because today you saw a solo form, but dancers also perform in ensembles, like my dance company Vyuti as well. So we are dancing with other bodies, so we have to relate to other bodies. And we are also very often dance teachers, and so we teach other people's bodies. But when we dance, we do more than physically move. We express, we emote, we release endorphins in our own bodies, and we invoke emotions in others. There is a deeply detailed and monumental theory about this in India, namely the Rasa theory, or the theory of aesthetics, which talks about how dance and drama and music invoke a myriad of emotional responses in the performer herself or himself, as well as the spectator, that is you today. So as dancers, we are deeply connected with emotion and expression. For us, the body, in addition to bone, muscle, and tissue, the brain and the mind, also is fundamentally a site of expression and sensuousness. As narrators and storytellers through our bodies, we are acutely aware of how the physical body reacts to emotions. When the body trembles with fear, when it jumps with joy, when it shakes with anger or cowers with grief. How the breath quickens during a moment of ecstasy as well as a moment of grave terror. The manner in which emotions, generally related to the mind, manifest in physiological responses from the body, very often become stimuli for us as dancers to create pieces of art, like this piece today that you saw. Dance is more than physical movement after all. It is bodily as well as cerebral. And sometimes it is somewhere between physical and mental. It's almost sensory. It's all to do with how we sense things. As we know, many of our illnesses arise due to prolonged suppression of emotions, the stress levels of cortisol in our bodies, and the stress that we put on our minds. And I do feel that dance can help help us to maybe freely express emotions through another medium and provide release for this stress and possibly eliminate at least this cause of illness in the body. So dance requires those who practice it, perform it, immerse themselves in it, to acknowledge and embody this mind-body connect that I believe is crucial to the comprehensive well-being of a human being. This mind-body connect that art and dance requires enables us to give equal importance to the physical, the sensual, and the cerebral. It enables us to understand the value of physical fitness as well as emotional virtues like kindness, compassion, and empathy. And it enables us to embody it into our daily professional practice. In conclusion, I'd like to say that both the practices of medicine and dance need not be seen as mutually exclusive or in isolation from one another, because they both crucially and primarily concern themselves with the body and its well-being. In fact, I would say that dancers and doctors can both gain tremendously from seeing dance and health as being integrated. The dance community certainly can and has benefited from the comfort of having regular and trusted physicians and doctors, the varied medical advice from them, and the knowledge of medical clinical well-being available through medical research about the anatomy of the body, its alignment, how muscles and bones function, how muscles can be strengthened, and so on. I can personally attest to this, that I have benefited from medicine and medical practice in such a way as a dancer. In turn, perhaps dance has something to offer to medicine as well, with regard to looking at the human body beyond a body to be fixed. And from the realization that dance does give you, that connecting with emotions deeply and knowing that they play a part in physical and overall well-being, it continuously enables dancers to and can equip medical practitioners as well with tools to apply emotions like compassion and empathy into their medical practice, something that we all can agree every patient will benefit from. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Aranyani. Thank you very much, Aranyani. You took us, mind, body, and spirit, on a journey. Welcome everybody back to Earth. We'd like to kick off a question and answer session. That's the reason I was sitting there, so that Aranyani could continue sitting here. Standing here. I just have one question to start off, and then I'll open it to you. Just to tell the people who are new to the house that you press the button on the mic in front of you, and a red light will come on and you can speak. So the question that I have, what you brought together, Aranyani, was bringing traditional form of expression into the contemporary in terms of your interpretation I would also say in terms of how she has come physically dressed, breaking those norms of what a traditional dancer looks like. My question is actually regarding empathy and the doctor-patient relationship. How can you advise the group here who are doctors and mainly the public who are online of how one can read the body when that interaction takes place? Maybe clinical history, maybe at the bedside. How does one read a body beyond words?
Thank you for that question. So I don't claim to be an expert at all on the body beyond my understanding of it as a dancer and as somebody who considers herself to be a healthy body. But what I would say to, if I understood your question correctly, it was what would I advise to doctors and and medical students perhaps about how to read the body outside of the clinic, or
Outside the words that are spoken when you're asking for a medical history.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, I think I touched upon that a little bit during the lecture as well, but I do believe that it has to, I as a patient of doctors, I would like to know, I would like to be asked why more often. I would like to be asked why do you think that you're hurting in this part of your body, or where is the source of this coming from? And I think that I think also, I know that homeopathic doctors do this a lot. You know, they spend, they take a very, very detailed history of their patients, and very often when you're filling out those forms, you often wonder, like, well, how is this even relevant to, you know, medicine? They ask questions like, do you prefer hot things or cold things, and do you prefer being warm in the blanket even on a hot summer day? I mean, things that you don't necessarily immediately come to think of in terms of medicine. I mean, in terms of, like, you know, going to a doctor. And what I would really like is for my doctors to spend more time in trying to figure out what the diagnosis was, and in trying to, basically, I think that's what, it's not advice, I'm just giving my personal.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Aranyani. Open to the floor. Please ask your question or reflection.
Hello, over here.
Hi.
I'd like to really compliment your performance. It was mind-blowing.
Thank you.
You actually made me cry a little bit because it was so emotional. Yeah, I kind of relate with the internal conflict of emotions because she fell in love with him. She did. But then at the same time, the betrayal. So the regular things in life, like, you know, you said, like the flowers and the moon, things she likes, she can't enjoy them anymore because of what he's done. Yeah, so I really enjoyed the performance. But I had a question to ask you.
Yes.
Is that, have you heard of the term, I have two left feet? I can't dance. Yes.
I have.
Yes. So how do you, you know, what is your response to those type of people? Like, how can you guide them into incorporating dance in their everyday life?
Okay, so first of all, I'm left-handed, so I take deep offense to that two left feet. Yeah, but I don't believe in such a thing. I don't believe that there is anything known as two left feet. I think everybody can dance, and it's true that not everybody necessarily has to become a professional dancer and dance perfectly, but I do believe that there is no such thing as, you know, being told that you can't dance. In order to answer the second part of your question, how do you get someone who believes that they have two left feet to dance? I think the way, the first step is to, in my experience, is to dance alone, by yourself, in the bathroom or, in your bedroom. Lock the door, put on some music and dance. In fact, for my 4-year-old son, I've been reading him this book called Giraffes Can't Dance. And it is about exactly this that you're talking about, how everybody in Africa, they have this jungle dance and they all laugh at him, the giraffe, when the giraffe comes to dance. And then the giraffe gets really ashamed and afraid and leaves this dance party where the lions are doing a tango and, all kinds of fancy dances are happening, and he kind of leaves ashamed of himself and meets a cricket who says, look at the moon, listen to the music of the grass swaying, and listen to, the most beautiful music for me is the music of the, the breeze in the branches. And then the cricket takes a violin and he starts kind of, playing the violin, and this giraffe suddenly starts dancing, and because he's all alone and he doesn't have anyone who's judging him, and he doesn't have anyone who's laughing at him and saying, Gerald, the giraffe, you can't dance, go away, and all that. And he dances this amazing dance, and slowly everybody comes and watches, and he's according to the book, boogieing away. And everybody at the end of it is throwing flowers at this giraffe and saying, how did you end up dancing like this? And he says, I don't know how I ended up doing it, but all I realized was that everybody can dance if you have the right music, or something like that. Yeah. So I can't remember the exact moral of the story, but it basically was about being by yourself with the art form and the dance form, and being with somebody trusted, or by yourself, somebody who's not judging you. So I would say that's the first step to dancing. If you have two left feet, do it on your own, and don't give two hoots about what somebody else says about how you're dancing. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
That was a great performance, Aranyani.
Thank you.
The question here I have is, what do you think about dance and memory? There's increasing evidence about, hopefully dance would help elderly, with dementia and other areas.
Wow. I think I don't know much about this research that is emerging, but I'm really happy to hear that there seems to be an establishment of some connection between dance and memory. I would say, just from the perspective, again, obviously as a dancer and not somebody who knows anything about medicine, but I would say that dance definitely plays a role in memory retention, and also I don't know if this is connected, but in dance we talk about something called body memory quite a lot. I think any sort of physical activity, any sort of movement that requires not just physical activity, but something more than that, I think it does force you to. There is some sort of cognitive development that's happening there, even in terms of the fact that in dance you are required to have this body and eye-hand coordination, and generally body coordination, and the fact that when you get to the stage where you're doing dance sequences or you're doing performances like this of 20 minutes, there is definitely a training of the mind that happens where you are forced to kind of really exert your memory to remember things, because particularly a piece like what you saw today, it doesn't have lyrics that you can rely on, or it doesn't have very strong musical cues that can remind you that, oh yeah, this is the part I'm supposed to be doing now. So there is a lot of memory involved in it, and I would say, of course, definitely body memory, it sort of kicks in sometimes and there must be a connection between the mind memory and the body memory, because in dance you first remember something through repetition and because your teachers remind you, and then beyond a point it kind of gets into your body and you can do it without switching that switch on because your body's switched it on. So I'm sure that there is a crucial connection between dance and memory. And please, if there's any article about this, and please share it with me. I would love to read it.
We'll share that with you. There are plenty of articles.
Oh, great! This is very exciting. If there's a connection, yes.
That was a wonderful piece of dance.
Thank you.
Just to add to it, dance may not always be the footwork or the nritta, what we call, right? And what I've observed, again, with your experience of your little one, similarly with my experience, that many times when your child had an odd day at school and is upset to come back home, I'm trying to link with the physiology or the concept of mental health into this. May not be in a position to tell you exactly what happened, but through gestures, through expressions,
Yes.
the child can tell many stories,
Yeah.
what has happened. And that is where I feel that when we talk about mind, body and soul, a very famous shloka that we talk about, Yato hasta tato
Yes.
drishti and things like that.
Hmm.
So I feel that dance may not always be the rhythmic or a movement full of actions, but even a subtle expressions or even a feeling that could be passed on to console somebody. For example, a doctor to a patient.
Mm.
Don't worry, you'll be fine. And that through only some gestures can do wonders.
Yes, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And actually, what I was kind of hinting at during the talk as well about, how our body responds to emotions, and sometimes the body responds to emotions in more honest ways than words can. Because our body, you may say, "I'm not scared," but your body will make it very clear whether you're actually scared or not. And this is something you see in children a lot because they try to put up they're trying to say something else, their body is telling you something else. So as I think you said that the body speaks. And it's absolutely true. The body speaks in ways the body cannot lie. It speaks. And I think absolutely that dance is more than just physical movement. And it is fundamentally a language and a way of expression. And it can be a language of and a way of expression where in moments where words fail you. It has been personally for me as well. There have been times when I've been either frustrated or really excited about something, and rather than articulating it with my words, I would rather dance it out. And and also, your body when you dance, it releases, like I said, endorphins. And I think that's also something that is almost a direct relation between like overall well-being, endorphins, and well-being.
Okay, one last question, and then, sure.
Here.
Hi.
We have a question that was posted online. So the question is, how does dance help to understand your own emotions as opposed to being sensitive to the emotion of others?
Okay, that's a very good question actually, because they are two very different things. Connecting with your own emotions and being able to connect to somebody else's. They're not completely unrelated, I think, but they are different. I think dance helps you to connect with your own emotions because in order, particularly in Bharatanatyam and very, very obviously expressive dance forms, actually, no, I'll correct that. Even in contemporary dance forms, because you're expressing less through your face, but more through the rest of the body in contemporary dance forms. I think in order to do that authentically, you can't not feel something. So when you're narrating a story, or and the stories inevitably do have emotion attached to them, some emotion or the other. It may not be as intense as this, but there are emotions attached to all stories. And I think that just by having to narrate those stories and by having to depict those stories and illustrate them through the body, I think that in itself helps you to connect with your emotions, because you won't be able to do it unless you don't connect it to your emotions. So a good example of this is once a friend of mine. I'm not a very ritualistic person, and wouldn't consider myself to be a deeply religious person either. And a friend of mine asked me, you're doing this form of dance, Bharatnatyam, that is all about gods and goddesses. It's all about, devotion and, even the love stories have a devotional element to it. So how are you doing this if you're not somebody who goes to the temple and who prays and who doesn't believe with absolute certainty that there is a God? And that really made me think about it, and that was my answer, that because apart from these stories, yes, of course, there are stories of gods and goddesses and there are stories about devotion, but devotion is also an emotion. And I may not be able to relate to, or let's say an atheist who, like I'm kind of on the fence about whether, God exists or not, and I'm open to the possibility of both. But suppose you take an extreme example of an atheist who absolutely does not believe in God, but is doing Bharatnatyam. The way that they would be able, they would be able to relate to it, because you may not relate to devotion to God, but you can relate to devotion to a friend, you can relate to devotion to a sibling, you can relate to devotion to an art form. So that emotion is still relevant and it transcends all differences. People used to ask me, how is it that you do performances again of the same nature? Do people abroad understand? Do non-Indian people who don't have a contextual understanding of these stories, the mythological stories and all, how do they understand? And again, the answer is emotions. So I think emotions are at the center of dance, and the only way that you can, I think, be a dancer that is able to communicate those emotions to other people is if you actually train yourself to feel them yourself. So I don't know, does that answer your question? Yeah. I mean, answer their question. I hope it does.
Yes, I think answering questions is also a journey. So I think at this point, we'll continue the reflection and asking questions in the informal gathering over tea. So thank you, Aranyani, for taking our questions. At this point of time, I'm going to say a big thank you to you and call upon our director and associate director to hand over a small tribute to you. Father Charles. And I call upon my colleague Radhika Hegde from the Department of the History of Medicine, a department that Professor Prakash Shetty was connected with and was very passionate about, to give us the vote of thanks.
So we've all been just treated with a very insightful lecture demonstration by Ms. Aranyani. Thank you so much. As I stand here today to convey our gratitude, I'm reminded of the inspiring words of an American author, Kurt Vonnegut, and I quote, "Practice any art, no matter how well or badly, not to get money or fame, but to experience becoming, to find out what's inside you, to make your soul grow." Aranyani's presentation today has truly exemplified this sentiment. Before we move forward, we would like to express our sincere appreciation to the family of late Dr. Prakash Shetty. Their generous endowment has made it possible for us to host this remarkable public lecture, which not only enriches our knowledge, but also pays homage to this legacy, to the legacy of a great individual. We are also deeply grateful for the unwavering support we have received from various quarters. Our heartfelt thanks to the management for their unending encouragement and commitment to promoting such intellectual discourse. We extend our gratitude to our director, Reverend Father Yesudas, the Associate Director of College and Research Institute, Dr. Charles David, the Dean of Research Institute, Dr. Tony, and the Dean of the Medical College, Dr. George, for their continuous support in making events like this possible. A special thanks to Dr. Anjali Olapalli, who introduced our speaker today, Dr. Mario Vaz, who is in the International Medical School, Ramaya College, and Dr. Mario Suarez, who is from Perth, who is in Perth, Australia, for helping plan this event. A heartfelt thank you to Mr. Ben from Ben Creations, whose technical expertise ensured that this lecture was accessible to a wider audience through live streaming. We extend our thanks to Nutrition Division and cafeteria staff that has ensured that we are all well nourished. Thanks much to the IT team, Mr. Prakash and Mr. Ali, and the housekeeping staff who helped us in planning and executing this event. Last but not the least, we would like to express our gratitude to all of you, our esteemed guests who are here with us today, and those who have joined us online. Without your support, our efforts would be in vain. Thank you so much once again. You can all join us for tea outside. Thank you.
Thank you, Radhika. For those of you who felt, that you got something from today, there is more dance happening. This performance